Okay. Hey, hi everybody. It's me. It's Sarah Elise. I'm an astrologer in Toronto, Canada, and this is my newsletter being recorded on June 4th, 2020 for my newsletter community. Um, yeah, okay. We have a full moon tomorrow. And it seems like the world is a little bit insane right now and a little bit crazy. And I just wanted to take some time to just like revisit some things with you and talk a little bit about what's going on and talk a little bit about this full moon and talk a little bit about the cycle, the Venus cycle that we've just been making our way through and all of this stuff. So so I'm going to start with just a quick reminder. Um, and I know it doesn't really need repeating, but I thought we'd just start with like a very quick reminder of like what the archetypes are of this specific passage of time that we're going through right now. And just to kind of remind all of us of where we are, like what the underlying principles are, the underlying current is with this, like with what seems to be happening in the collective, right? The Capricorn conjunction, like that, the massive conjunction that happened at the beginning of January between Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn. And then it was very quickly after that joined by Jupiter and Mars and Mercury. There were a whole bunch of planets all in Capricorn during January. And the lead up to this conjunction was pretty highly touted as being something that would set the tone for all of 2020. And so it has. And I remember talking a lot about this in the beginning part of the year. It was all begun by this big eclipse that happened on the winter solstice. So let's just review what that means. Capricorn rules the structure of our society. It rules the structure not only of our society, but of the way we structure ourselves inside our own architecture. You know, we all have to grow up and go out into society and be a person. Like we have an internal reality. We have ways that we experience our own inner worth, our own inner drive, our own inner creativity, our own relationships are very personal to us. The way we experience spirituality is personal to us. The way we experience alchemy is personal to us. But every single one of us has to stand up and walk out the door and function. We all have to go out there and present a persona into the world. And we have to, the way we build this persona, the way we build this quote unquote structure, and I'm going to call it a structure because Capricorn rules structure, Saturn rules structure. Like what is structure exactly? Structure is what keeps us together. It's like, it's the foundation of your house. It's the scaffolding and it's like the I don't know, the joists and like the beams and things like it's just the foundation of it. Not the things that fill it, not the things that decorate it. That's not Capricorn. Capricorn is the stuff that keeps us together, the bones, the skin, right? And we all have this structure that we build, that we walk around life with, okay? And the structure, so because of the way I experience consciousness or reality, I experience my structure a little bit more multidimensionally. So I've learned over time that the structure that I carry is not just of this lifetime, right? This is not, sure, we get imprinted by our family karma and our tribal consciousness impacts us. But more importantly, the structure that we walk out in life with has to do with our genetic lineage. It has to do with our ancestral heritage, with our soul's lineage, with our past life karma, all sorts of things imprinted. So we're all walking around in life based, like expressing ourselves through this form of some kind that is anchored into beliefs and anchored into trauma and anchored into awareness or memory that goes back lifetimes, 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 lifetimes. Okay. And we don't really get a choice. I mean, at some level before we incarnate, I believe we get a choice. I don't think that, you know, that this is just a game of chance. We choose our entry point here. We choose our entry point. So we enter into a family line, we enter into a genetic lineage, we enter into a racial, tribal, familial, all of this is very clearly decided upon as we enter in. And there is no better or worse. You can enter into the royal family, or you can enter into like a poor family in a slum outside of the airport in Dubai. There's no difference actually at all in these entry points, because life is all about learning, and life is all about expressing life. Life doesn't have it doesn't have prejudice. It doesn't have hierarchy. Life itself is just simply an expression of love, or an expression of energy. So there's no better or worse. But irregardless, we are what we are, and we got what we got. That's it. There's no, as my teacher Deborah always says, there's no divorce in heaven. You are you. And from the day you're born until the day you die, and then beyond your death, you are still you. So these structures that we walk around in life with, though, they can change and they can evolve. So how, because I believe, like, from my own experience anyway, the structures that we carry, that they're like they need renovating. Like, there are times in our lives where we need to renovate the house, right? The structure has become outdated, or it doesn't fit. There's not enough room for us, or, you know, it started to rot or fall apart. It doesn't feel good anymore to be in this structure. So we have to change it. And that is what's happening right now with Pluto conjunct Saturn, conjunct Jupiter. This whole year, we're having an opportunity to realign and rebuild our structures. So this is happening inside, internal. This is happening outside, external. The structures externally reflect the internal structures, because we build our society based on our internal structures, based on our internal beliefs, our internal judgments, our internal conditioning, all of it, right? And we've lived for several thousand years in a patriarchal structure. We're coming out of the age of Pisces and moving into the age of Aquarius. So we're coming out of a hierarchical age where we gave our power up and out, where we sacrificed ourselves and went into servitude and enslavement to something greater than us, to the powers that be. And we're moving into an era of equality. The age of Aquarius is an era of equality, where everybody gets to stand in their own solar archetype, in their own central column of light, and know themselves to be a piece of the divine plan, equal to all other pieces of the divine plan. And in so, every human being deserves the right, has the right to claim their sovereignty and claim their own inner ground, claim their own uniqueness. That's what Aquarius is. And then to contribute to the collective from that place of uniqueness. But to get from one to the other, to get from this hierarchical subjugation of your will to something greater, Pisces, okay, which played out all sorts of nefarious ways in the last many thousands of years. In order to get from that to the Aquarius age, you have to break down the old paradigms, and you have to reclaim something new. You have to find something new inside yourself. And the template, or the archetypal template, is there for all of us. Like we're all tapping into it now. Like we're all connecting to it, right? We're all, we can feel it. All of you who are listening to this, you know it resonates, right? Yes, this is true. Yes, this is true. It's certainly not me. I'm just a mouthpiece for it, right? I'm not making it up. I hear it reflected back to me from many different places all the time. And it's been, you know, coming in for years. And we're just at this place now where the shit's getting real, because we have to make these really significant adjustments in our own architecture, in our own psyches, in our own reality. And so things have to fall apart before they can get rebuilt. There's a destabilization before there's a restabilization. Yeah. The demolition crew has to come in, and there's a lot of dust, and there's a lot of chaos, and there's a lot of disruption. And this has happened throughout history. I mean, this is just normal. This is how things change. Things change by falling apart and then getting rebuilt. Yeah. So that's the cycle that we're going through right now. And it feels to me like, well, from my own personal viewpoint, I mean, I know I have to deal with my own inroad, my own body, my own structure, my own beliefs, my own prejudices, my own everything that I've inherited, right? Everything that I'm living inside my own genetic lineage. I have so many memories. Like I have so many memories. I have so many little tiny shadows or shades of this feeling or that feeling or this judgment or that reaction or this fear or this pain or this insecurity. And it's my job to go in there and to take accountability for all of that, because I am the one who gets to choose how to be in this body. It's no one else's decision, and it's no one else's responsibility. And as I stand up and choose that, as I clear the path for me, I become a clear entry point into the collective field. So that's the path of the healer, or the light worker who is a healer, right? I was reading an interesting piece today on Facebook. A friend of mine posted something about waves of light workers, and how some of us are here to kind of clear a path of healing, and some of us are here to then enter in and become a revolutionary force or an activist force into the collective field. And that makes a lot of sense to me as well, that there are many of us that do our work on the external and many of us that do our work on the internal, but that we're all working on the same thing, essentially, because what is outside is inside, and what is inside is outside. So if you're more inclined toward the activism role, and you want to make change by being in community and by participating really actively, that's your nature. That's your way in to this structure, to this collapse and rebuild. And if you're more of an internal person like I am, then that's your way, right? So you have to just honor who you are and what your way is. Now, right now, with this full moon, and so there's, let me go to the full moon last. I'd like to just revisit the Venusian cycle that we've just come out of, or that we're just coming through. We talked a little bit about this at the new moon, but we are just at the very end of an 8-year Venus cycle, where she has made this beautiful sort of, she creates a symphony is what she does. Every 8 years, she creates this unbelievably beautiful poetic dance of how we relate to love and beauty within ourselves, to elegance and poise and connection and interaction and all of this. So from 2012 to now, we've had one pulse of her life force, one breath of her expression. And now, yesterday was the last day of that 8-year cycle, and we're now in a new cycle of Venus, so which will define the next 8 years for us. So I just wanted to quickly tap into that and remind you, she's still in retrograde, I think till the 23rd of June. I'm sorry, my dates, I'm so bad with numbers. I believe it's the 23rd of June. But she's essentially now in her new symphony. She's now writing a new symphony. So what does this feel like for us? On a personal level, there's a lot of reclamation of value that's happening. There's a lot of like, what matters to me? Who am I? What do I care about? Who do I love and how do I love them? How much do I open myself up to love? How much do I shut myself off from it? Why? We're still in the retrograde, so we're still in an internalization of this system. In fact, there are, I believe, 4 planets in retrograde right now. So there's a lot of inner stuff going on, and a lot of inner accountability and inner view that's happening. But with the Venusian cycle, particularly because it's very personal, we really feel that one. It's not transpersonal. It's not like Pluto going retrograde or Uranus going retrograde. It's a personal archetype. So what with this Venusian archetype from now until like the 23rd of June, we're now finding out how her new symphony wants to be played through us. Okay, so there's like this. There's a listening, and there's like a deepening, and there's even maybe an open-hearted, receptive prayer. And I would imagine that we get to put in a little bit of a vote as well, that we get to ask a little bit, you know, maybe you'd like to actually deepen to a new place in your own ability to love in the next 8 years. Maybe there's something you want to honor in yourself, or a brave new way that you'd like to be in yourself, or something that you want to receive or accomplish, or a way that you'd like to own your own personal expression in the world, or connect to it, or reference it, or anchor into it in a new way. There's all of this stuff is kind of available to us right now. And, you know, her energy is in Gemini. So there is an ability for us to communicate with her right now, to have a conversation, to, you know, to connect our heart and our mind, and to be able to speak the words of love from our heart, right? Instead of kind of shooting off in all directions. And that very much brings us to the full moon archetype, which is tomorrow. We have a full moon. I think it's about 3 p.m. Eastern Standard tomorrow. And this is not going to be an easy full moon. I'm not suggesting that it's going to be very pleasant, that there's nothing very pleasant right now. The full moon is creating a giant T-square, an exact T-square. We've got Sun in Gemini, conjunct Venus retrograde. So that's lovely. There's a Venusian quality. Sun conjunct Venus always feels great. Opposite moon at 15 degrees of Sagittarius. And both of these opposition points make a perfect square to Mars in Pisces at 15 degrees of Pisces. And Mars is conjunct Neptune at 20 degrees of Pisces. So we've got Neptune is also part of this giant T-square. So, so this is at the collective level, the fullness of this expression that we began 2 weeks ago with the new moon in Gemini. So what does this exactly mean? So it's kind of hard to say, but the way I feel like this full moon is expressing is almost like, oh gosh, how to put it? It's like there's this desire for us to speak our truth, to listen to others, and to hold a space for this dream that we have that is greater than we can imagine, right? There's like this fervor, there's this energetic impulse, this Mars in Pisces conjunct Neptune, that we want something good for everybody. We want something better. We're so tired. We want to fight Mars for the good of all, for love, Pisces. But we also have the potential of being very deluded in this time and being very confused, Neptune in Pisces conjunct Mars, and acting from a place of confusion, acting from a place of frustrated will, okay? Our will is not gonna feel altogether expressible right now. Like, we're not gonna get what we want right now. This is a place of tension. Like, we're locked into a karma at a collective level, okay? And the tension is building, and there's frustration and anger and disillusionment, yet the underpinning of it if you tap into it, is this desire for good. It's the desire for more. It's a desire for something greater, for a greater dream. So though the dream is frustrated, it's there. And, you know, always with a T-square, to release the tension of it, we look to the empty space opposite the apex of the triangle. And that empty space is at 15 degrees Virgo. And Virgo is an archetype of discernment and specific action. It's also an archetype of service. It says, how can I help? How can I be useful? What specifically can I do to make this reality better, to make my life better, to make my expression better? So if we're feeling like really caught up by all, like by this polarization of, you know, many different opinions, many different attitudes, many different pieces of information, and this desire for us to hold on to our own truth within that, right? The moon in Sag opposite Sun, Venus, and Gemini. So we are open-heartedly receiving many pieces of information, and we're trying to find and locate our own truth within that. That's the full moon energy, expression of our truth within the multiplicity. And then this frustrated desire for universal harmony, for peace, for something greater, this Neptune conjunct Mars and Pisces, for a greater dream, a greater vision. We want to fight for it. We want to do something, but it's frustrated because it's in a T-square. So we can't do anything. It's just like this disillusioned, sort of murky place where we don't exactly know what to do. It's so hard. It's like there's nothing. So let's look to the Virgo, okay? If you want to release the tension, find like a few clear things that you can actually hold on to that are real. Like one or two things. It doesn't have to be a lot. Like what are ways that you can actually take responsibility for your own life, for your own action, for your own activity, for your own expression, and choose them. Maybe it is maybe it is just a spiritual thing. Maybe it is just choosing to have one prayer that you pray. Maybe it's an activity that you're going to go out and do. Maybe it's a way that you can interact with the people around you. Maybe it's really just like deciding to take care of yourself a little bit more tomorrow. Sorry, I had to get a glass of water. My throat's kind of closing down. I think the point is, rather than sitting in the fog, kind of find something to do. Find a place of action, find a place of activity, find something specific, a specific way to ground how you're feeling, and hold on to that and do it. And just in terms of the whole collective, you know, what I perceive, like the way that I perceive it, and I'm just one tiny bit of a person, I perceive that, you know, we're all really facing into our ancestral lineages right now, into our ancestral karma, and we're all like liberating it. We're expressing it. So there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of shadow material that's coming to the surface, and we all have a chance to offer our truth to ourselves and to others, to share who we are, what our perspective is, to honor each other's truth, to listen, and then to try and fight for something greater, okay? And to find a way to define what that is, and then to take some bold action. Now, I don't believe that there is any bold action that's going to come of this full moon tomorrow, but at the very least, you can see how it makes you feel and really define your perspective within it, your truth within this whole collective unfolding that we're going through. I have to say that, you know, upcoming, Mars is entering into Aries at the end of June, I believe, and I could be wrong about that date. I'm so sorry. I think I wrote it down. Anyway, Mars is entering into Aries soon, and we're gonna have Mars in Aries for like an enormously long time. I think 7 months. He goes into Aries, and then he comes retrograde, and then he continues all the way up until the beginning of 2021. He's going to be in Aries, and I have Mars in Aries in my birth chart, opposite Pluto. I've dealt with this archetype for my whole life. And I can tell you, he's not safe. Mars in Aries is not a safe energy. It's violent. It's instinctually, primally violent. Very, very passionate, very sexual, very like, he just goes, he's a warrior in Aries. Mars rules Aries. He's a warrior in Aries. So right now, you know, our frustrated will and Mars conjunct Neptune in Pisces, this inability to really know what we're doing and this kind of wooey, wishy-washy energy, this is going to change very quickly. and I think that tomorrow, and with this full moon, and with this, we have an eclipse tomorrow as well, our very first eclipse in the Gemini Sagittarius cycle. And then we'll be going into 2 more eclipses, one on the summer solstice and then one at the beginning of June. Those are finishing off the Cancer Capricorn cycle of the last year and a half. Tomorrow, it would be a really great thing for us all to kind of spend some time coming into our higher vision and our higher dream and our higher truth, and to just ground into that. Because when Mars moves into Aries and we come into the rest of 2020, there's gonna, I have a feeling that, you know, when Mars expresses in Aries on a lower level, it is war. It is war. That's it. It's war. It's like Aries as an archetype, you know, according to the Greeks, Aries was a buffoon because he was like a bloodlusting god who just dove right into anything he could get into that was violent, and he took such pleasure in the instinctual expression of life, right? The instinctual male drive. That's what Mars and Aries is. And the Romans vilified, or the Romans elevated him to kind of this more of this like noble warrior archetype. So Mars and Aries can go both ways. He can go down to like just like the primal soup, like the denigrated kind of masculine, like the masculine expression that is kind of like icky and like out of control, a little dirty, a little violent, like fisticuffs, getting a fight, reacting to things, strutting and rutting, all of that stuff. And you can elevate him to this level of a spiritual warrior, or a warrior who is willing to fight for love, and who is clean and pure, and who does what's necessary and has the courage and the bravery to do so. So maybe the way that we're going to enter into the rest of 2020 is going to have to do with how we are able to anchor into the truth within ourselves. The more deeply that we can be centered in God and in reality, like in choiceful, conscious alignment and heart alignment, versus alignment with our lower chakras and our primal urge, the more we can lift into our heart and higher mind, I believe the more we will see the unfolding of this year peaceful and congruent and elevated. And so the more of us who can do that, the better. And I have a feeling that it doesn't really matter, because it's going to be a shit show anyway, but all for the greater good in the end of the day. It's nothing if not exciting, and my Mars and Aries is like, what's gonna happen? So anyway, I'm a part of it. Trust me, I'm working really hard. I'm working really hard, and I'm doing my deep work, and I know all of you guys are doing it too. So let's just keep going. I hope that was enough information. I hope you got that. And I'll put this newsletter out by the end of today. And I hope you guys are all well and that you're riding this storm, you know, just keep feeling your feels and being honest and listening and keeping an open mind and keeping an open heart. And yeah, we made it through that Venus cycle. We made it through. We really did. She's not out of bounds anymore. She's in bounds. There's a containment. We can now bring her in. We can now come in. She's not out of control. We can hold her. We can own her. We can find a new dream to dream, a new symphony to play. And we can move forward and we can ground into this very powerful full moon tomorrow. As crazy as it feels, we can find our truth within it and we can stabilize and ground into that truth as we move forward from this day. So thanks, guys. Lots of love. Bye.